Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we'll begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got their crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified optics, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens is on the sun or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified optics, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hello, everybody. And I apologize because, of course, the landscapers come as soon as I hit go live. So if it's a little bit loud, I apologize. But welcome. Hi, Corey. Hi, Harlot, MK, Adrian, my snot rocket. We have K-Brace, J-Lord, Harlot, People May, Jacqueline. We have Mimi Boo, Sexy Wild Thing, Carol freaking Claus. And Claus, I'm sending you all of my love today. I am so happy that you're here with us. Tonka Girl. Let me see. Musicity Mom. Eddie. Tony. Okay, scrolling up. I think I got everyone. So, hi Peppermint Tea, Hippie Chick. Hey, Allie. Hi, guys. So, we are doing members only chat today. So if you are not a member, I apologize. You're still able to view and you're able to watch. But I haven't done anything for members for a while. So I figured, all right, as we're going to go over the information that was released in the Reuben Appelman's book, While Idaho Slept, of what Dylan allegedly experienced, heard, saw, I figured, you know what, let me hop on and let me put on members only and give you guys an opportunity to chat. So just for anybody who may be trying to chat, if you can't, that's probably the reason. So it's members only chat, but anybody can view. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you all here with me. I wanted to go over, and I know we were supposed to do this kind of the next day, so I apologize for the delay. But as you guys know, Reuben Appelman did the audiobook, and he released While Idaho Slept. Hold on one second. And it was While Idaho Slept. the hunt for answers. What was it? The hunt for answers in the murders of the 4 college students. We know that he is from Boise, Idaho himself, this author. We know that he has access to investigative reports, that he spoke directly to Dylan's dad. And if you guys remember, it was the same day. Yes, ATS, I gave it to you last time. Welcome to the family. Thanks, Allie. Look at Allie. Members also get to use these amazing. Thanks, Allie. Hey, Wolfie. You're so sweet. So, by the way, Allie, are you going live today at all, Allie? So, and sorry, my brain's getting a little bit scattered. One, are you going live at all? Allie, ATS News, are you guys going live at all tonight? Because it's Friday night. I'm not going live later, but we're starting the Nick Godejohn. If you guys are following my the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard, the Gypsy Rose and Nick saga that I've been doing, we are starting tomorrow night. I have it scheduled. I'll drop the link so you guys could set your notifications. But tomorrow is the first live of the trial of Nick Godejohn. I'm not going to be playing the entirety trial from beginning to end. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pulling out the best moments and highlights of the trial, aka Gypsy Rose taking the stand, and when they go through the brutal sex messages and stuff like that, and the parts that I think are the most interesting parts of the trial. So I have that scheduled for tomorrow night. But if Allie and ATS, if either of them are going live, please drop your links to your guys' lives and let us know in the chat. But yes, just to let you guys know, because I had originally scheduled the Nick Godejohn for last night, but it's pushed off to tomorrow. So I'm just letting you know it's scheduled and it's in there. So just keep your eye out, and I will be live at that for tomorrow night. Okay, so the last time we were live with this, there was the article published, and it was the same day that this book had been released. And there was the article published explaining how Reuben had spoken to Dylan's father. Now, Dylan's dad has never spoken to anyone other than Reuben. Awesome, Allie. I look forward to it. So, this is the first and only person that Dylan's dad has ever spoken out to. I know that we have all been, from the very beginning, anxious to hear the version of events from these 2 surviving roommates. Yes! It just says I'm live every Tuesday and Friday nights, 8:45 Delphi tonight. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Thanks, Allie. Look at my supportive friends and mods. I just love them. Okay. So, from the beginning, obviously, there has been a high demand to really understand, because everything with this case is, and pardon my French, but it's a clusterfuck with this case. There are so many moving pieces. It's an overload of information. You have so much information, yet at the same time, you have no information at all. Does that make sense? You have too much information, yet you have insufficient information. You're trying to put together these pieces, yet they don't fit. Then you have additional pieces, and it's like, wait a second, these pieces don't even go to this puzzle, and it's just a clusterfuck. All right. Well, one thing that we've all unanimously wanted was, man, what about these surviving roommates? The little bit of information that was released through the PCA was the first time that we had access to this knowledge that, hey, both surviving roommates were not on the first floor sleeping throughout the entire event and did not just wake up late in the morning and called 911. Like, it's the first time we had heard that Dylan was on the second floor, that she witnessed the killer, had heard and experienced things. So all of this had just come out at the PCA, and it's the first time we were made aware of it. Then we were kind of left with nothing. Both Bethany and Dylan went kind of into hiding. And Dylan's dad even explained how his child, and you know what? Let me pull that up first. His child was being hunted down by media. And remember those photos? And I don't want to pull them up again. I had shown them during the first live. I don't want to pull them up again because it shows Dylan's minor sister, and I don't want to keep showing her minor sibling. But the media had taken all these photos and they claimed it was Dylan the first time we had seen Dylan after the murders. It was not Dylan, but it was Dylan's younger sister. And Dylan's dad was bringing attention to the fact that, no, it may not have been Dylan, but it was my other child. And this is how far they're willing to go to get even a photo of her. She's basically a recluse. She doesn't go out. She doesn't do anything anymore. Now, there was a couple of interesting things. And hold on, I'm trying to pull up this article. Okay, here it is. Like the dad mentioning that Dylan is getting a form of therapy. It was her jogging, Allie. You could find it on Google. I had pulled it up last time, but I don't want to show it again only because, again, she's a minor. But you'll know what I'm talking about if you saw it. You could find it right on Google. If you type in Dylan Mortensen, it'll come up actually. But she was jogging. And so after I don't know if it was a couple of weeks or a couple of months after the murders, these photos went viral, even though you could tell it was not Dylan. But these photos went viral of Dylan Mortensen first time spotted out, after the murders. It was not Dylan. It was Dylan's younger sister, though. But Dylan's dad mentioned in this article, and this is the article we had pulled up the same day that While Idaho Slept audiobook was released, which, again, we're about to break that down right after I go over this article again. But this is the first time we're hearing anything about Dylan, of Dylan's experience, what she's been going through since the murders, because it has been completely silent. So let me just refresh your guys' memory, because there's a couple of pieces of information within this article that's not in the excerpt of the audiobook that I'm going to go over. So it says the surviving roommate of the Idaho murder victims, Dylan, is reportedly isolating herself after experiencing the brutal dogpiling on social media since the quadruple homicide. It says Reuben Appelman is the only reporter to speak with the father of Dylan. And it quotes, in the beginning, weeks after those homicides, she was basically dogpiled. Hey. What is that? Hey, what was that? Did you guys see that? What did I do? I didn't do anything. All I did was click a fucking article link. What was that? That freaked me out. Did I break something? I hate fucking technology. I hate technology, seriously, because I don't know how to do that shit. Ugh. Okay. I'm going to pull it up on my phone. Okay, guys? Just let me pull it up on my phone. You don't need to follow with me. I don't know. I didn't even read it. The noise freaked me out. That gave me such bad anxiety. Ugh. I feel like I need a Xanax from that. That really stressed me out, guys. All right, hold on. I'm pulling it up on my phone. This is why I like paper. I pulled that link up before, no problem. All right, hold on. Boop. Okay. All right. So it says my phone better not go beeping. I'll be mad. I've been to that link. That's the same link that that really stressed me out, okay? I feel like my phone's gonna blow up in my hand right now. I'm really scared. Why was that so loud? All right. So it says, and I quote, this is where it went wrong last time. Shit. And I quote, in the beginning weeks after those homicides, she was basically dogpiled on social media. Vile web sleuths had accused Dylan of being involved with the crimes, while others called her a drug dealer, among other names, he added. So, and I quote, this was part of the trauma that she experienced. Dylan herself has retreated from the public eye. From the public eye, very few people see her. Mortensen's father expressed heartache over his daughter's suffering from brutal cyberbullies after the trauma she experienced from surviving the massacre. But Mortensen's father told Appelman that his daughter is in the process of healing despite being hounded by bullies. And I quote, she is in a trauma therapy of sorts. She's getting help from the spiritual community, he said to Banfield, which, okay, pause there. I'm just saying, at the same time that you're saying she's not going out, you're saying she's getting a therapy of sorts from the spiritual community. I'm not sure what exactly that means. Is there people coming to the house? This clearly isn't conventional therapy. More along the lines of something, outside, which I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm just saying I think conventional therapy is definitely necessary in a situation like this, in addition to spiritual therapy, like that could be absolute, but the conventional therapy I think would be ideal in a situation like this, in my opinion. Isolating herself, but she is stepping out a little at a time. She is gaming online with peers in group gaming sessions. So, group gaming sessions. Okay. She's doing what she can without going into the public. So, again, that's my point. So, whatever this spiritual stuff is, it's not I can't imagine her doing it in a public setting because he's saying basically that she does not leave the house. Initial details from an affidavit released in January said that Dylan opened her door to find a man clad in black clothing and a mask with bushy eyebrows. And I'm just scrolling through just to see. The teen told police she had locked herself in the second floor bedroom after the encounter with the killer, who was wearing a ski mask at the time but didn't dial 911. Funk is believed to have slept through the attack in her ground floor bedroom. Mortensen said she was awoken around 4 a.m. by what sounded like Gonsalves playing with her dog, and we're going to get into that because that was in the audiobook. And in this, you guys will see a short time later, she heard Gonsalves say, "There's someone here," the haunting affidavit reveals. Mortensen looked out of her bedroom door but didn't see anything. That was the first time because the affidavit did not say, Gonsalves said there's someone here. Well, now we know why that detail came out, because that's released in the audiobook that I'm about to go over with you guys. The second time she opened the door, she heard a male voice say something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At 4:17, a neighbor's security camera picked up an audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper sounded by a loud thud. A dog can be heard numerous times. Morton stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. The family of victim Kaylee have defended Mortensen's actions. Attorney Shannon Gray said Mortensen was likely scared to death when she encountered the man and insisted that she is still a victim in this case. So Appelman is the only reporter who spoke with Dylan's dad. And he said that Dylan's dad told him that his daughter is in the process of healing. All right. So now that was that article that we had first gone over. Now I want to go over the piece of the book that describes what Dylan allegedly experienced. And I will give a trigger warning because it is graphic. Now it is written it's an audiobook. So it's stated in a way as if Appelman knows this information, as if he knows this information, as if Dylan relayed this information to her dad, and Dylan's dad relayed this information to Appelman. Okay? It's J. Reuben Appelman test, and he lives in Boise, Idaho. He has had access to investigative reports. He has spoken with a lot of people regarding this, but cannot verify or confirm anything within this. I'm not saying any of this as fact. I'm just relaying to you what's within this audiobook if you haven't purchased it yourself and listened to it. But we do know that he did speak directly to Dylan's dad, and this is the first time we're hearing this information, and it is within the book as if they know this information to be true. And it makes a bit of sense, I'll be honest. So again, trigger warning. Trigger warning. Hold on, let me get my notes out. 1 second. Okay. So the victims were stabbed to death multiple times, fatally in the torso area. Kathy Mabut had come out initially in a couple of interviews post the murders, but Kathy Mabut talked about the crime scene being very bloody. But Kathy Mabut had actually been downplaying the horror of the crime scene publicly, and would later privately discuss in more graphic detail with the family members of the victims what exactly the crime scenes looked like. And again, these are not my words. I just want to say that I'm just repeating what the book states. So J. Reuben Appelman wrote that the killer had torn the victim's flesh with a massive knife, the way that a deer hunter would tear into his prey. Investigators would later reveal that the victims likely hadn't all been asleep at the time of the murders. And one of the victims suffered extreme overkill. And if you aren't familiar with what overkill is whatever injury would suffice in death, they then inflicted more injuries. Okay? So if you are looking to kill someone and you shoot them in the head one time, that would normally, typically result in death. Now, if you shoot them in the head 10 times, that's overkill, right? Like you inflicted way more injuries than just resulting in death. So one of the victims suffered overkill. Now, if we think back to what the Gonsalveses was stating, and they said Kaylee and Maddie's injuries did not match. Now, we don't know in comparison to Xana and Ethan's injuries if that was, if there was that big of a contrast, like if there was that big of a difference. But now that we know, based on what the Gonsalveses are saying with Kaylee, there's evidence that shows Kaylee woke up and tried to get out of that situation. That might be indicative of why she may have had much worse injuries. Because if Maddie may have been asleep at the time that the attack had initially occurred versus there was a struggle with Kaylee as she fought to get out of the situation, I don't know. That's pure speculation. All that's stated is one victim suffered overkill. So, Dylan was sleeping, but was awoken just before 2 a.m. by her housemates who had come home. But her housemates didn't go straight to bed. Okay? So let's set the stage here. Dylan got home earlier than the rest of them. We know that Dylan and Bethany got home earlier than the 4 victims. Dylan went to bed. She went to sleep. The first time, the early morning of the 13th, that Dylan was woken up was actually by the roommates coming home. Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, Maddie. It's unclear if it was Ethan and Xana or if it was Kaylee. I'm not sure. It just says just before 2 a.m., Dylan was sleeping but was awoken by her housemates, and they didn't go straight to bed. So I don't know if they were hanging out in the kitchen. That is what I'm going to assume. They were either hanging out in the kitchen or in the common area. Because based on where Dylan's bedroom is, I'm trying to think of where would they have been for her to determine that they didn't go to bed right away. That would make sense, right? You could hear them right outside your room if they were in the kitchen making food or whatever. Also, I'm trying to think if they were in the kitchen, depending on how long and the lights were on. Eventually, not right away, but eventually. But that's much later. See, I don't know how long they were up there, but okay. I don't know. All right, I'll scratch that for now. But just before 2 a.m., Dylan was awoken by her housemates. They didn't go straight to bed. Dylan fell back into a deep sleep. But she was awoken back up again to a commotion in the house. A commotion. Shortly after 4 a.m., which that was I loved hearing that, because everything in the PCA was around 4 a.m., around 4 a.m., around 4 a.m. We get this detail shortly after 4 a.m. Dylan heard what she perceived was Kaylee playing with her dog. And we finally get a little more detail to what that meant. The reason she thought it was Kaylee playing with her dog is because she heard Murphy barking and movement across the floor. So Dylan is woken up again after falling back into a deep sleep to commotion in the house. Shortly after 4 a.m., she thought it was Kaylee playing with Murphy because she hears Murphy barking and she hears movement across the floor. Yes, Allie, movement across the floor. So what that implies to me, right, is if anybody has ever been downstairs while somebody is above you, right, and someone's walking above you or moving, you could hear the creaks and sounds. So if Murphy is barking and you're hearing kind of the movement, like the creak and the movement that someone upstairs is moving, she probably thought she's playing with Murphy, like roughhousing with Murphy. But what I want to point out, guys, she already rationalized that sound. Okay? So at this point, you guys, Dylan wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong. And that's fair to say. That is 100% fair to say at this point. In her mind, she woke up, and let's be fair, you're not thinking completely logical when you're being woken up. I wake up and I'm like, what year is it? You know what I mean? But in her mind, she heard Murphy barking and she's hearing movement upstairs. In her mind, she's like, I guess Kaylee's playing with the dog. She already accounted for what was going on. She made reason to what she was hearing. No cause for concern. No threat. No imminent danger. She rationalized. And that makes sense. So I'm following this so far. That makes sense to me. Hi, Booberry. So Dylan fell back to sleep, but she was awoken to commotion in the house shortly after 4 a.m. She was awoken to what she thought was Kaylee playing with Murphy. She heard Murphy barking and movement across the floor. It then says, the sounds were too loud to sleep through. So Dylan called out to her roommates to calm down and that she was trying to sleep. Now, we've heard this before. We've heard that before. That Dylan called out to her roommates, that she told them, be quiet. I would assume, Nika, that it was Brian. And potentially Kaylee trying to get out of the bed. So the sounds were too loud to sleep through, which, you want to know what that tells me? There was a struggle. That Kaylee and Maddie may have been quick because she was asleep. But it would make sense if Kaylee was putting up a fight to get out of that situation. And she may have been banging up against the wall because she was, like her parents said, trapped between Maddie and the wall. And with the way that bedroom is laid out, to try to get to the foot of the bed, which is right next to the door, she probably was hitting up against the wall, making noise. And then Brian is leaning over the bed, or the murderer is leaning over the bed, attacking. Murphy's barking. So from downstairs, Dylan's hearing the movement, the noise, and the barks. Hi, Eastern girl. So the sounds were too loud to sleep through. So Dylan called out and said, calm down. I'm trying to sleep. then that's when she thought she heard either Kaylee or Xana say, "There's someone here." Now she cannot distinguish where that voice came from and who said it, because the voices in that house can be heard through the walls, through the vents, through the stairs, through the flooring. So the origin of that voice is unknown. But now I am more inclined to believe it was Kaylee who said it in the midst of the struggle. Now I'm inclined to believe it, now that we have even just that little bit more detail, if we're to believe this is true, it would have been Kaylee waking up in the middle of what was occurring and struggling to get out of there and saying that there was someone here, that there's someone here while she's trying to get out of there. Yeah, Harley, this book was, I don't know, was it like last week or a week and a half ago that we went through the article the same day that it was released? Let me see what day it was. And the excerpt is actually pretty, like, when I took notes on it, the clip that I'm taking notes from, it's pretty quick, actually. Just my notes are a little bit longer. Yes, Alexa does call 911 on voice commands. And there is actually a case. I forgot the name of the case, but specifically of this woman screaming, "Alexa, call 911, Alexa, call 911. And even there's one where this mailman was getting assaulted, and you hear him scream, "Siri, call 911. But he was too much of in a panic where it couldn't clearly hear him. Yes, it was part of the book. So the article was published as like a little sneak preview for the book. So now I'm definitely leaning towards Kaylee being the one who had said, "There's someone here." But I also want to point out that if it was the dad relaying to this author that Dylan couldn't distinguish who said that because the voices could be heard through the walls and the vents and the flooring, because it was Dylan who relayed that to the dad, that also would be true in regards to all of the sounds of the murders. That noise would be traveling throughout the house. Okay. Oh, wow, me feeds. Hi, Rebecca. I'm sorry, hippie chick. I'm sorry, Nika. I'm setting everybody's Alexas up. So it was at this point, after she heard what she thought was Kaylee or Xana say, "There's someone here." This was the first time Dylan got up and opened her door. See, for me, even this little bit of extra detail that we didn't have in the PCA makes a big difference. Makes a big, big difference. So it was after she heard that. She got up, opens her door. She looks to her left up the stairs. It's dark. You can't see anything but shadows. But she sees nothing. Peers straight out towards her, towards the kitchen area. Nothing. And then towards the right, which is the common area and the hallway that leads to Xana's room. And she sees nothing. So she goes back, shuts her door, and she goes back to bed. But then she hears more commotion. And that's the word that's being used, commotion. She heard what sounded like someone crying from Xana's room. But she is unsure who it was. She cannot say that it was Xana. She's unsure who was crying, but that it was coming from Xana's room. And it sounded like tears, which, you know, now in hindsight, we could know that it didn't necessarily have to be crying versus, unfortunately, the sounds that you can make while injury can be inflicted. This is from the audiobook published Meatfoot While Idaho Slept, and this is the author that Dylan's dad had spoken with, the only person Dylan's dad ever spoke with. So after she had gone back to bed, she heard what sounded like someone crying from Xana's room. She is unsure who it was, but it sounded like tears. She got back up and opened her door for the second time and peeked out. That's the word used. Peeked out. And saw nothing remarkable. And that is when she heard a male voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." It sounded like it came from Xana's room. In Dylan's mind, from the book, this is from the book, okay? Is Xana crying? Is Ethan going to help her? Dylan was exhausted from all of the noise that was keeping her awake. But she rationalized in her head at that point. Xana was the one crying, and she knew Ethan was there. Ethan was the one who was going to help her. She knew Xana wasn't alone. She was fucking exhausted. So she goes back to bed again. But it's interesting to now know it's when she opened the door that she heard, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." So she shuts the door and she goes back to bed again. Then she heard more crying. So for the third time, she got up and opened the door. And that is when she saw a man in all black clothing and a mask covering his mouth and nose, walking towards her in the dark. It said in the dark. Athletic, but not muscular. 5'10" or taller, with bushy eyebrows. In Dylan's mind, it goes through, had he been partying with the roommates? Is he one of the many new friends they made during the few months of school? She didn't know. And that's where that ended. She didn't associate him with being a killer versus, did you come here with my friends? You know, like, were you partying with them? She didn't know. Welcome, Mia B. Thank you so much for joining. We're happy to have you with us. I'm sorry. Well, we're happy to have you. So, now I would love to have some more clarity with the 8 hours. I feel like we all would, especially even after yesterday with the alleged text messages and this specific text message that says that I think they may have been killed. Because if there was a text sent from Dylan that stated that, you would think that authorities would be called prior to friends, summoned. But based on even just the little bit that was relayed, how does that sit with you guys? Because there wasn't too much more detail than we already knew. Just a couple of little smidge details, just a couple little bit. So for me, even with a couple little smidge details, okay, it helped fit a little bit better. But my bigger thing is the 8 hours after. And how friends were summoned first. That's where I get hung up. But I want to know how you guys feel. That fits what I've been guessing too, that she might have just thought Ethan and Zana had been gotten in a fight, and or he had a friend over in a fight and might have thought it was a friend that she saw leaving. I can follow everything that's being portrayed here. I can. 100% actually. Just like I said, where I go, okay, when did you know something was wrong though? Because as far as we know, if she didn't think anything of it, she would have eventually left her room to go use the restroom, to get breakfast, whatever it may be, and she would have stumbled upon the bodies, but she didn't, as far as we know. As far as we know, doesn't seem like she ever left her room. She locked herself in the room, right? And friends were summoned, which shows that you knew something was wrong. But if you knew something was wrong, then you should have contacted law enforcement. So I keep getting stuck in this paradox, right? Where it doesn't ever work. No. See, okay. Meatfoot, was it a murder situation? I don't think it was a murder, right? This is a completely different situation. This is, if you believed your roommates were murdered, you wouldn't be summoning friends, in my opinion. Now, if what I'm thinking, my best guess is, everything could be true like she stated. And maybe she did go back to bed. But then maybe in the morning, before she left the room, like it kind of sat and bothered her. And so she started messaging them. And nobody answered. And that started freaking her out. And then it was the lack of anybody answering that made her start thinking back to how weird that was. You know what I mean? Oh, thanks, Musicity Mom, for gifting a membership. Congratulations to whoever received it. And that just might be it, Allie. Excuse me. But again, I need the part that is missing for me is how did you go from shaking it off to, oh, this must be someone who came in with them, a friend they made, to something is wrong, I don't want to leave my room, like it's that part. I need to know where we went from there to here, and where I'm missing that part. I'm thinking most likely, I'm thinking she may have fallen back to sleep for a couple of hours. When she woke up, she may have texted some of the roommates. Nobody would have answered besides Dylan. Besides Bethany. She may have expressed to Bethany, like, did you hear any of that last night? I don't know, man. I don't want to go out there. None of them are answering. And then communicated with some other friend, like, well, I don't know if maybe Ethan was supposed to be somewhere. There was probably communication going on where it was alerted that the four of them have not answered. And that may have been the reason that Dylan did not want to leave that room. You know what I mean? And that's like, well, I don't want to go. Someone come here and check. Like I'm freaked the fuck out. Yes, Callie Dime. Yes. Thanks, Claus, for gifting a membership. And congratulations to Ginny. Thanks, guys. Yes, K-Breeze. I don't see Murphy barking without a commotion. Okay, PKC said, not verified, but I heard recently it was friends that contacted her, Dylan. Ethan was supposed to be somewhere, and when he didn't show and didn't answer, roommates were called. Oh. Well, I guess, Mia, every dog is different. I can't imagine a dog just barking for 8 hours straight alone in a room unless there was energy. But he was still like a puppy. Musicity, Mom. Yes, 2 people are released from their FOMO. Yeah, Murphy was potty trained. And Kaylee and Maddie, when they got home, took Murphy out. That's what I'm saying. If everything was quiet, which it would have been after a bit, I can't imagine Murphy just sitting there barking. Yeah, like during the commotion, absolutely Murphy would have been barking. But I meant like after the killer left and once it was quiet, no, I don't think Murphy would have just sat there barking for 8 hours. No. I think that this is what I meant by damn. Of course, we have a lot of questions, and of course, things don't seem like they add up, but that's because we don't have all the information yet. But that's why we needed to wait for trial, right? Because there are so many people who are willing to like convict Dylan and Bethany. Trial by media with them, even though they're not on trial. And I understand that this is a horrific crime and people are emotional. And it could be they didn't make the best decision. It could be something like that. You didn't make the smartest decision. But that doesn't mean that they had any involvement. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be struggling for the rest of their lives with this. And so I just think it's really important to wait to have all of the information before we jump to conclusions. Because like I said, even with, and there was very just little minimal detail that was released in this audiobook, just minimal detail. But even with that little minimal detail, it helped me. It helped me. And so imagine when we get all of the answers, maybe it's again, it may not be the answers that's going to satisfy us. And I think we all need to accept that. It may not be the answers that we're satisfied with. But we're going to have to accept it. If it's the truth, we're going to have to accept it. And I really think it's going to be leaning towards Dylan did hear and see things, but she didn't know what she heard and saw was anything nefarious at the time. And it was only later on that morning, for whatever reason, whether she was being contacted because Ethan didn't show up, she was contacting them. I don't know that information yet. But it was only later on that morning, for whatever reason, that she became concerned and she started thinking back to what she experienced early in the morning. That she's like, all right, I don't, something's not sitting right here. And she summoned friends over to take a look at what was going on. And that's how we got to where we're at. That may be exactly what happened. So we could sit here all day and be like, you should have known that he was a killer. You should have known. You could have possibly saved one of that. Again, it's very easy to sit here in hindsight and point at someone and tell them what they could have, should have done. But it very well probably is She did hear things. She did see things, but she didn't know what she heard or saw was what it was at the time it was happening. Because for the longest time, we were all arguing, there's no possible way you couldn't hear that. There's no possible way you couldn't hear that. You're right. She did. She's admitting she did. The PCA is admitting she did. It's just not getting into graphic detail. But the truth very well may be, she rationalized it in her head and she didn't understand that what she was hearing was a quadruple homicide. The same way in the beginning when I mentioned she heard what she thought was Kaylee and Murphy playing, because it was Murphy barking and movement across the floor. She already in her mind rationalized that first thing. In her mind, she already was rationalizing it. Second thing, when she heard Xana crying and she opened the door and she heard a male say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," she rationalized it that Xana was crying and Ethan was saying, "I'm going to help you." Like, and she's like, all right. She was probably annoyed. From what it sounds like, she was probably annoyed because she kept getting woken up from what she was perceiving was her drunk roommates being loud. So yes, she did hear things. That's not even an argument anymore. Yes, she did see things, but she didn't realize what she was hearing or experiencing until later. Another thing people overlook, the PCA said she seen him walk towards the door, not that she saw him leave. Well, even if she saw him walk towards the door, you'd be terrified he'd come back in, right? But to be fair, if you're saying like hoping she wasn't next, that is a problem, PKC, because right there, that would imply that she knew that they were just murdered. So we can't go in that direction. See, you'll get stuck in a paradox. If we're going with that, oh, she was afraid that he was still there and hoping she wasn't next, that statement would imply that she knew something happened to her roommates and she would be next. So we can't go down that avenue unless you want to go down the possibility that Dylan knew her roommates were being murdered. Because as far as we know, based on this, she was rationalizing in her head that he was one of their new friends and he was hanging out and partying with the roommates. She didn't associate him with murder, not being there uninvited. So I'll finish listening to it. It's in its entirety though, and I'll pull out any other nuggets that I think is interesting, or relevant that I think you guys would want to know. But I think that part was definitely important and interesting. Allie said, I think I'm sorry. I had drunk roommates in college, and if I heard something like this, I'd put something in my earbuds and ignore it. You know, even the crying drunk college girls just cry all the time. Well, yeah, and there's a few things, again, that we heard throughout this that we've heard before, like Dylan actually calling out, yo, shut up, you know, like I'm trying to sleep. We've heard that before. And her being annoyed could be a very good possibility, and it's rational, right? Her waking up, you have to remember, the very first time she was woken up was right around 2 a.m. The first time they walked in. And it was like, come on, like she's been trying to sleep since before 2 a.m. So from her perspective, she's just being woken up. So in her mind, she's just like, oh my God, and like, I'm going back to bed. I'm rationalizing, I'm going back to bed. Hi, Angel D. I understand, PKC, yeah. I hear what you're saying. But, all right, guys, so ATS News has a live at 8:45 to go over Delphi. Allie, do you know what time you're going live yet? I'm not sure what time Allie's going live, or what her topic is going to be yet. Allie, if you know, you could let us know. So I'm dropping ATS News's link here, and then I'll drop Allie's link next, and she can let us know what she's going to be doing. And then I will be on tomorrow evening, and we'll be doing part 1 to the Nick Godejohn trial, highlights and best moments. I'm really excited about that. And so, hi, Jordan. Of course, Tess. Is she going on at 5, Musicity Mom? Oh, in like 30 minutes? Awesome. And then here's Allie's channel. So, all right, so we'll go do a Jade raid over at Allie's in 30 minutes. I'm not sure what the topic is yet, but I will see you guys over there. And then 8:45 Eastern, we will be over at ATS News's. So thank you all so much for being here. I hope you all have an amazing Friday. Please be safe with everything going on. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Musicity Mom. And I will see you all tomorrow if I don't see you over at those 2 lovely ladies' channels. So have an amazing evening, and I will talk to you all soon.